Hey guys, this is going to be part 2 of the monster creation. What we're going to do this time is get the monster shooting. We're going to get the monster spawning in, just kind of get everything set up so we have this kind of a nice little boss battle. Maybe some more tweaks we'll need to do to it. For the most part, we want to get all of its functionality in here real quick. So the first thing I want to do is have our monster, when we left off, monster was shooting, and we need to have it shoot, and what we're going to need to shoot is the homing missile, and the homing missile is going to need to be turned into a prefab. So what I want to do is take the homing missile and drag it down in here, create the prefab so that it turns nice and pretty in blue, and then what we're going to do is create a situation where we're going to be able to make this guy shoot and actually affect our player. The problem is some of the stuff that goes in between stuff that's in the scene and in the prefab and all this. So there's going to be some changes we're going to have to do to it, okay? So step 1 is boss. Go to the playmaker. Go to, not movement, we want, go to our boss here. Make sure we're under boss shoot. And then in case of left shoot, the game object we want to spawn is going to be our homing missile, okay? And from there, the spawn point should be the boss bullet spawn, and then we're going to add our force to our homing missile. The homing missile sitting over here. Make sure that you do have a rigid body applied to it because it is going to be doing all that collision. It needs to be a full-blown bullet, so give it a rigid body. Turn off gravity since it's going to be kind of a flying missile thing. Just make sure you have that. I went ahead and assigned a yellow shader to it just so I could identify it and see it a little bit better. And so what should now happen is sort of this. See how they're flying straight? That's not good. We don't want flying straight. What we want is sort of like this guy was over here. Let's see if I can move my character back to our instantiated, yes, a nice word, an instantiated bullet. The first one that we created that's already in our scene, it is correctly homing in on our guy. The other ones are not correctly homing in on our guy, okay? So if they're not homing in correctly on our guy, then we need to make it so that they are. So let's figure out what's going on here. All right. So if we go and we look, and you'll see there's a homing missile here and a homing missile prefab. We want to select this prefab because that's the one that we're wanting to use. And here it's going to have our look at and our translate because this is going to be our movement. Well, in the moment, our target object is gone. Okay, the game object that we're wanting to move is here. The target object is gone. And you'll see that assets is the only thing available, so we can't even select our player for it to home in on. So what we're going to have to do is use a little action called game object, find game object, and I'm going to drag this to the very top. Okay, so what we want to have happen is this missile to start and find an object with a tagged player, because there's only going to be one player tagged, and we're going to store that as a variable. So we want to create a variable called a variable player and make it a game object type, okay, and then assign that here. Okay, so it's going to spawn in, find where the player is, store that in a game object, and then we can set that as our target. So hit the little blank space, bring down, go to player. So now these guys should now home in on our poor unsuspecting player. So yeah, here they come, boom, boom, and they are certain. And if you have the rigid body set up right, they should be destroying themselves right. If not, make sure that you have it set up under, again, playmaker, homing missile, not health pack, homing missile prefab, and make sure you go under, not movement, homing collision, okay? And our homing collision, you should have your collide tag with player. That should go over to hurt player, okay? So kill self, and then you should also have a hurt player, which is going to send the event, okay? And then you're also going to have to send the event to our health. So we're gonna have to make that work in a minute. But basically, collision, collide tag with player, send event hurt player. In this case, you have an untagged, send event, just get rid of it. And if it's a monster, you just get rid of it. Okay. And then at the end, you have your weight. In this case, 2, 3, whatever it is, and then both of those will go back to our kill self kind of setup. So under hurt player, what you'll notice is with the thing running now, you'll see that these guys will make contact with our player, okay, and they are not doing anything to his health. All right, so we're gonna have to make a little change. So if we go to hurt player, you'll notice that the send event in target game object specify, and it's all missing. We need to make sure that we can find our game object. All right, and as you can see, we don't have that in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to have to have it find our health manager, okay, just like we did with the other one, and then send the event to it. All right, so what we want to do is come over here, and instead of send event, the first thing we need to do is go to variables, and we're going to call this thing, say, health. Health manager. It's not going to be a float, it's going to be a game object. Go back to the state, and we want to go to our action browser, go to find game object, set that at the very top, and we don't have a tag for that right yet. So what we're going to have to do is go to our health manager, right, and then go and change it from untagged to add a tag, and this tag will be health manager. All right, so now we have a tag set up for it. It is of that type. All right, not homing manager, health manager. Change that to a health manager tag. Then when we go back to our homing missile, prefab, right, make sure these are the ones that are spawned. Find a game object with the health manager tag, store it in our variable, and then send our event, okay, to a game object. That game object is going to be our health manager. All right, and we're going to send the event hurt. So if everything goes correctly, this should now work. So play, slides over, monster moves in the way, he starts getting hit and dead. All right, so that would be the end of our player. So in this case, we now have that nice situation where we can, you know, we're having actual a fight kind of with our boss. See who can destroy the other one first. Codeath. All right, so with that being done, everything is at least partially working well enough to where we can do some fixes on it later to dial in the bullet speed and dial in the damage and all that. But we have a monster, we have our boss that spawns in, it does something, or I'm sorry, we have our boss and it moves up and down and it's spawning homing missiles and it can blow up, but it has a health bar and all that. But the last thing we need to do is, as you can see when we first start our game now, we've got an enemy health bar over here, we've got the boss set up, we've got all this kind of stuff going on, and we need to get rid of this. We need to make sure that the boss only spawns in once we get in position for the boss to spawn in. So we need to change a couple of things, okay? Alright, so the first thing we want to do is to make this kind of engaging is we need to create a boss spawn point, okay? And that can be really quickly and easily create just create empty. And I'm going to call this a boss spawn point. Okay, I'm going to position it 0, 0, 0 for the moment, and then move it about to where our boss is. Now our platform here is, as you can see, it's Y at about what, this 2, okay, something like that, along 2. I could drop it down, but what I've noticed is when our player jumps on this platform, he ends up, a good part of his jump is about around the 10 range, okay? So what we want to have happen, let's take this right here. Let me just double test this real quick. So if you look at the Y position of our player, right, you can see that he's at 3 and he jumps. So right now he's at a Y of 3 and he jumps up to about an 8. Right, so we want to make him jump a little bit to reach the boss. So doing a little bit of fast math, we can find out about what spawn point we want to make it. So let's make the dip of his thing be about that 5 or that 6. Okay, so let's take our boss, let's set it at 20 because it's going to go down 20, up 3, down 3. So that's not going to be a little. That's going to be a little close. So let's set her at about let's set her at about 17, right? So it's going to go down. Let's actually no. I want 23, right? So be down 20 and end at 3, then go up 3 and down 3. So let's see what this ends up looking like in the game. All right. So that's way too easy to shoot. We need to bring him up some. So let's go, instead of, I think 26 is what we had him at. Let's actually take it to a full 30 and see what that looks like. Yeah, okay, so now I gotta definitely jump up to have to hit him. All right, so at 30 is what we're gonna want to spot him in at. So go to 30, make that our boss spawn point. Okay. So our next course of action is definitely take boss and drag it down into our hierarchy to make it a prefab. All right, so make sure it turns nice and blue. What that'll do is it'll allow us to actually take our boss out of the game. Okay, so we're just going to have a spawn point, and then we have our boss set up as a prefab. Now, I can just about guarantee you something in here has been broken because we did this, but that is actually quite all right. So what we want to have happen is this is our boss spawn point, and what we want to have happen is that our playmaker, we want to have a situation where this is going to create our boss. So remember that door we had, our wonderful door trigger box, and we had this last state 3 over here, so the door shuts. Well, why don't we add it to that? Okay, so this trigger box is also going to be our boss spawn. So what we want to have happen is we want to have to create an object, okay, and that game object will be one of our assets, and it is going to be our boss, the big yellow guy. Okay, the spawn point of it will be our scene boss spawn point. And that's what we're going to have happen. We're going to have it create, when the door shuts, it's going to create this guy. But if you want to do a little bit of narrative here and create a little anticipation, what we can do is we can add a wait to this, right? So have it wait, say 2 seconds, and then go ahead and create that spawn. Actually, to make the wait work, we need to put it in its own state. So let's go ahead and add a state. Call it the anticipation state, or whatever you want to do it. Add transition, that closed is fine, and move it on over, and then we'll add the wait. Say a 2 second, and then do a close. So just kind of done, 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 and then we have our boss spawn. So let's see how this one works. So here's our player, hippity hopping, closes the door, and then after 2 seconds the boss spawns in. There you go. So there we go. Start the thing up, move in, we trigger, and then boss spawns in. Have a nice battle. I probably made the life of these homing missiles a little longer. As it is, they're not lasting long enough to get to us. So that'd be one of the little changes that we would make. But this is as it is. It's working. Door shuts. You activate the trigger, it spawns the boss, and we pretty well have our system kind of set up there. All right, so the next thing I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to post up a kind of a bug fix and kind of general tidying up sort of thing, and that'll be probably one of the last videos. I hope you all have enjoyed it.